14 Most Shocking Black Actor Deaths. The Up Secrets Hollywood Tried to Bury. What happens when we peel back the polished veneer of Hollywood stardom to reveal the raw, gut-wrenching reality underneath? You know their faces, their iconic lines, and the characters that defined your childhood. But you never saw the surd, brutal truth. Visionary artists battling terminal illnesses in total secrecy. Legends fighting decades-long legal wars to reclaim their own intellectual property. And icons who were paid mere pennies while their work generated billions for corporate giants. The industry sold you the dream, but they hid the exploitation, the systemic greed, and the heartbreaking sacrifices required to survive. Welcome to Black Hollywood Uncut, where we dismantle the velvet ropes to expose the industry's most fiercely guarded secrets. Hit subscribe, brace yourself for the ugly truth, and let's dive into the madness. Chadwick Boseman die. Age 43 inches, 2020. In the modern cinematic landscape, few figures have embodied the weight of historical legacy with the same quiet, transformative power as Chadwick Boseman. Born in 1976 and raised in a community rooted in faith and hard work, he did not initially set out to be a performer. He was a storyteller at heart, studying, directing at Howard University to ensure that the narratives he brought to life were framed with purpose. When he finally stepped into the spotlight, he did so with a level of dedication that left critics searching for superlatives. Whether embodying the athletic grace of Jackie Robinson in 42 or the soul-drenched charisma of James Brown in Get On Up, Boseman possessed the rare chameleonic ability to disappear completely into his roles, demanding a total physical and psychological reinvention every single time. Then came the role that cemented his place in history, King T'Challa in Black Panther. It was more than a performance. It was a cultural watershed. For millions of children around the globe, he became the first superhero who not only looked like them, but stood as the proud protector of a homeland defined by majesty rather than suffering. Boseman carried that massive responsibility with an extraordinary, almost regal grace. Yet the most profound chapter of his life was written entirely in shadows. In 2016, at the tender age of 39, he was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. What followed was a feat of human endurance that borders on the superhuman. While the world watched him transform into an Avenger, a historical icon, and a global hero, Boseman was fighting a harrowing private war. He underwent grueling chemotherapy and multiple surgeries between filming sessions for Avengers: Infinity War, Endgame, and Da 5 Bloods. His trainer and his agent knew the truth, but he refused to let his illness become his public identity. He remained committed to the work, driven by the knowledge that he was creating something larger than himself. By the time he passed away on the 28th of August 2020, at just 43 years old, the progression of the cancer to stage 4 had finally taken its toll. The announcement of his death became the most liked tweet in history, a testament to the immense void his absence created. He was a king who never revealed the war he was fighting, yet he gave everything he had to ensure the future of those who looked up to him. Chadwick Boseman's life remains a powerful reminder that our greatest acts of heroism often happen in the quietest, most private corners of our existence. He left a legacy that will inspire generations to come, standing as a man who treated every frame of his life as an opportunity to change the world. Sidney Poitier, Die Age, 94 Zoll, 2022. Before Denzel Washington commanded the screen, and before Chadwick Boseman donned the mantle of a hero, there was Sidney Poitier, the man who fundamentally dismantled the iron walls of Hollywood racism with nothing more than his presence. Born in 1927, his life began as a miracle. He was a premature infant born to parents visiting from the Bahamas, and he was not expected to survive the night. That he did felt like destiny asserting itself. Raised on the remote Cat Island with no electricity or running water, he arrived in New York as a teenager with a thick, melodic accent that initially saw him rejected from every acting program he dared to enter. But Poitier possessed a fierce, unrelenting refusal to accept the limitations others placed upon him. He taught himself American English by listening to the radio for months, an act of sheer intellectual grit that mirrored the path he would later carve for every black actor who followed in his footsteps. In 1964, Poitier achieved the unthinkable, becoming the first black man to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in Lilies of the Field. It was a seismic shift in culture, yet it was the landmark year of 1967 that immortalized him as a titan, as he starred in To Sir with Love, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and In the Heat of the Night. That year, he was the highest-grossing box office star in America, a feat that defied every existing narrative about what audiences would pay to see. He carried the burden of the civil rights era on his shoulders, ensuring his roles were defined by dignity and intellectual authority, rather than the degrading stereotypes of the past. His influence extended far beyond the silver screen. As a diplomat, he served as the Bahamian ambassador to Japan, and he was honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom and a knighthood. When he passed away on the 6th of January 2022, at the age of 94, Broadway theaters dimmed their lights to honor the man who had effectively forced the world to acknowledge the humanity of black actors. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy remains the very foundation of modern cinema. Every black performer working today, from the biggest action stars to the most nuanced character actors, owes their opportunity to the door Poitier kicked open and held wide with his own two hands. He did not just act. He paved the way for generations to exist in a space that once explicitly rejected them. Cicely Tyson, die, age 96 inches, 2021. Cicely Tyson's career was defined by a single revolutionary vow: she would never, under any circumstances, take a role she was ashamed of. In an industry that for decades relegated black women to the roles of maids, caricatures, or disposable background figures, Tyson's uncompromising standard was an act of profound defiance. Born in Harlem in 1924 to immigrant parents, she grew up in the shadow of deep poverty and strict religious faith. Her mother initially viewed the entertainment industry as morally corrupt, yet Tyson's spirit was impossible to cage. She modeled, performed in community theater, and relentlessly forced her way into rooms that were never designed to hold a woman of her stature. Her breakout role in the 1972 film Sounder was a masterclass in emotional restraint. Playing the wife of a Louisiana sharecropper, she conveyed lifetimes of history and heartbreak through the smallest of physical gestures: a look, a sigh, the set of her jaw. It earned her an Academy Award nomination, and she followed it with the television masterpiece, The Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. In that film, she aged across a century, playing a woman who witnessed the entire arc of the civil rights movement. The performance was so transformative that viewers actually called local television stations to ask if Jane Pittman was a real person, a testament to the absolute immersion Tyson brought to her craft. Over a career that spanned 7 extraordinary decades, she did not just break barriers, she obliterated them. She won a Tony, 3 Emmys, and a Lifetime Achievement Oscar in 2018 at the age of 93. Tyson treated her life's work as a sacred mission, refusing to take the easy path. Even in her final years, she remained vibrantly engaged, publishing her acclaimed memoir, Just As I Am, in January 2021. She promoted the book until her very last days, possessing the same sharp fighting spirit she had when she first entered the industry. When she passed away on the 28th of January 2021 at the age of 96, the world lost more than an actress. It lost a standard-bearer for truth. Cicely Tyson lived 96 years, and by all accounts, she did not waste a single one of them. She remains the gold standard for artistic integrity. A woman who demanded that the stories of black women be told with the complexity and majesty they deserved. She proved that you could reach the highest peaks of Hollywood without ever selling your soul. Andre Braugher, die, age 61 inches, 2023. If you look for a masterclass in the technical limits of human performance, you eventually land on Andre Braugher. Born in Chicago in 1962, he was a product of the Juilliard School, the hallowed ground for actors who prioritize craft above all else. Brogger did not just play characters. He constructed them with an architectural precision that made every scene he occupied feel more significant. His breakthrough came in the 1990s as Detective Frank Pembleton in Homicide: Life on the Street. In an era of formulaic procedurals, Brogger's interrogations were Shakespearean in their construction. He could hold the screen with a silent, intense gaze, forcing the audience to process the same moral weight his character was navigating. It was an Emmy-winning performance that set a bar very few have reached since. Yet Brogger possessed a rare chameleonic ability to thrive in completely different registers. To a new generation, he was Captain Raymond Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where he mastered the art of the comic deadpan. He played Holt with such perfectly calibrated stoicism that even his smallest eyebrow twitch became a comedic event. It was a second act that most veteran actors dream of, but rarely achieve. His film work, ranging from the historical intensity of glory to the gripping drama of primal fear, consistently elevated the quality of the projects he touched. He had a natural magnetic gravity that demanded your attention whether he was wearing a police badge or standing in the wings of a stage. Perhaps the most defining aspect of Brogger's legacy was his fierce, uncompromising commitment to privacy. He kept his lung cancer diagnosis entirely hidden, allowing his work and not his illness to be the story. When he passed away on the 11th of December 2023 at the age of 61, the shock was total. Even his closest co-stars, who had worked alongside him for years, were blindsided. That silence was entirely in character for a man who believed that the performance itself was the only conversation necessary. Andre Brogger left behind a body of work that redefined the possibilities of dramatic and comedic television. He was an artist who never gave a lazy performance, a man who treated every script with respect, and an actor whose absence has left a silence that television will be trying to fill for a very long time. Louis Gossett Jr. d. Age 27, Poust 2024. Louis Gossett Jr. was a man whose career was measured in shattered ceilings and unrelenting ambition. Born in Brooklyn in 1936, he was a natural athlete who was actually drafted by the New York Knickerbockers in 1958. Cinema's gain was basketball's loss, as a high school injury redirected his focus toward the stage. At just 16, he landed a role in a Broadway production that the New York Times named one of the 10 best of the year. It was a spectacular beginning, yet Hollywood's path for a black man of his talent would be long and frustratingly narrow. Gossett spent decades proving his worth, turning every small role into a showcase for his volcanic authority and deep, resonant presence. The tide turned with the landmark 1977 miniseries, Roots, where his portrayal of Fiddler captured the hearts of over 100 million viewers and fundamentally shifted the national conversation about the history of slavery. However, it was his 1982 performance in An Officer and a Gentleman that secured his place in the annals of cinema. Playing the demanding gunnery sergeant Emil Foley, Gossett delivered a performance of such fierce, authentic power that he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, the first black man to ever win in that category. It should have been the moment he became an untouchable A-list fixture, but Gossett was candid throughout his life about the reality that Hollywood's racism possessed a ceiling even for Oscar winners. He never let that bitterness extinguish his work ethic. Across 7 decades, he accumulated over 200 screen credits, moving from the sci-fi grit of Enemy Mine to the cultural weight of Watchmen, and his final major role in the 2023 version of The Color Purple. He kept working until there was simply no more time left to work. When he passed away on the 29th of March 2024 at the age of 87, he left behind a legacy that had evolved alongside the very industry that once tried to limit him. Louis Gossett Jr. didn't just open doors, he forced the industry to widen its view of what a black lead could be. He was a titan of authority, a pioneer of the craft, and a survivor who understood that longevity in Hollywood isn't just about the awards you win, but the resilience you show every time you step in front of the lens. Michael K. Williams, Die Age, 54 Zoll 2021. The scar that ran across Michael K. Williams' face was more than a mark of a bar fight on his 25th birthday. It became an indelible signature of his screen presence. Born in 1,969 inches, Flatbush, Brooklyn, Williams grew up in an environment that offered few easy paths. Before he became the face of American television's most complex anti-heroes, he was a professional dancer and choreographer, touring with icons like Madonna and George Michael. This background in movement gave him a distinct rhythmic way of carrying himself, a physical vocabulary that directors eventually recognized as something primal and irreplaceable. In 2002, he was cast as Omar Little in The Wire, a role that transcended the screen to become a cultural touchstone. As a shotgun-wielding, code of honor-bound stick-up man who robbed drug dealers and whistled spirituals through the streets of West Baltimore, Williams created a character of Shakespearean tragedy. It remains one of the most celebrated performances in history. Yet the fact that he never received an Emmy for the role is still cited as one of the most egregious oversights in the awards' history. He proved that you could play a criminal and still be the moral center of a show, provided you brought the right amount of humanity to the role. He followed Omar with equally haunting work as Chalky White in Boardwalk Empire, and later delivered powerful performances in Lovecraft Country. However, the line between the traumatized characters he portrayed and his own off-screen life often became painfully thin. Williams was deeply transparent about his struggles with substance abuse, speaking openly about the difficulty of separating his identity from the pain he depicted on screen. On the 6th of September, 2021, he was found dead in his Brooklyn apartment due to acute drug intoxication. He was 51 years old. His death was a profound shock that resonated far beyond Hollywood, serving as a heartbreaking reminder that the demons portrayed on screen can sometimes find their way into the lives of those who depict them. Michael K. Williams wasn't just an actor. He was a mirror, held up to the complexities of the human condition, and his loss remains one of the most stinging chapters in modern television history. Lance Reddick, die, age 60 inches, 2023. Lance Reddick was an artist of rare architectural control. Born in Baltimore in 1962 into a family of educators, he approached acting with the rigorous discipline of the classically trained musician he was. After earning a Bachelor of Music degree and later a Master of Fine Arts from the Yale School of Drama, he brought a dual foundation of rhythmic precision and theatrical depth to every performance. Whether he was playing a police lieutenant, a corporate concierge, or a god, Reddick possessed an ability to command silence that set him apart from nearly everyone else working in his medium. His television career was a masterclass in nuance. In The Wire, he portrayed Lieutenant Cedric Daniels with a stoic moral complexity that served as the perfect counterweight to the show's chaos. He moved seamlessly from the high-stakes bureaucracy of Bosch to the supernatural mystery of Fringe, proving that his range was effectively limitless. However, it was the John Wick franchise that introduced him to a global audience as Sharon, the impeccably composed concierge of the Continental Hotel. He played Sharon with such a perfect blend of loyalty, wit, and poise that he became the anchor of the film's chaotic world. Reddick was the definition of exceptional. Beyond his screen work, he was a talented musician who released his own jazz and R&B music, and a voice actor who lent his authoritative tone to major video game franchises like Destiny. On the 17th of March 2023, he was found dead at his home from natural causes. He was 60 years old. His passing was a sudden, devastating blow, particularly because it occurred just days before the release of John Wick Chapter 4. The film became a tribute to his talent, and his final projects were released posthumously, finally earning him the widespread recognition he had deserved for decades. Lance Reddick left behind a legacy defined by dignity and a standard of excellence that challenged his peers to reach higher. He was a professional in the truest sense, a man who treated his craft with reverence and left his audience better for having watched him work. Erica Ash Dye, age 46 inches, 2024. Erica Ash was a force of nature who moved through the entertainment industry with a rare, effortless versatility. Born in 1977, her path to success was anything but traditional. After graduating from Emory University with a pre-med degree, she originally intended to become a doctor. However, a life-altering trip to Japan, where she found success as a backup singer and model, redirected her trajectory toward the arts. From there, she carved out a space in Hollywood that demanded excellence in comedy, drama, and physical performance simultaneously. Her breakout in Mad TV established her as a sketch comedian of genuine range, capable of transforming into icons like Michelle Obama or Naomi Campbell with a precision that went far beyond mere mimicry. Yet Ash's most profound strength was her resilience. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she made the courageous choice to navigate her treatment in near-total privacy. While she was making audiences laugh night after night, she was fighting a stage 4 battle that saw the disease eventually consume 70% of her spine. Even after undergoing surgery to stabilize her back, she refused to let the diagnosis define her. She chose to live boldly, jumping off cliffs in Mexico, continuing her acting work, and providing unwavering support to her family and friends, all while keeping her struggle hidden from the public eye. Her professional legacy is perhaps best remembered through her role as M. Chuck in the Starz drama Survivor's Remorse. As an emotionally complex attorney, navigating the pressures of fame and family loyalty, she brought a sharp, layered authenticity to the character that earned her an NAACP Image Award nomination. When she passed away on the 28th of July 2024 at the age of 46, the outpouring of love from an industry that was largely unaware of her illness underscored just how deeply she had touched those around her. Erica Ash's life stands as a testament to the idea that true strength isn't just about what we achieve on screen, but how we choose to carry ourselves when the cameras are off. She lived a life defined by discipline, humor, and a quiet, unbreakable spirit that will continue to inspire those who knew her story. Chance Perdomo Dye, age 27 inches, 2024. Chance Perdomo possessed a textural richness in his performance style that most actors spend decades trying to manufacture. Born in 1996 and raised with a cultural duality that blended American roots with a British sensibility and Latino heritage, he moved through the world with a perspective that felt wise beyond his years. His training at the National Youth Theatre in London provided him with the theatrical discipline that underpinned his career. But it was his raw, magnetic presence that made him a star. He first commanded global attention as Jerome Rogers in the BBC 3 film Killed by My Debt, a shattering performance that earned him a BAFTA nomination for Best Actor at the age of 22. He became a household name through his role as Ambrose Spellman in Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, where he portrayed a centuries-old house-arrested warlock with a perfect balance of supernatural mystery and grounding wit. Perdomo had the unique ability to navigate the extremes of stylized fantasy and raw social realism with equal ease. This range led him to the critically acclaimed Amazon Prime series Gen V, the spin-off of The Boys, where he played the magnetic hero Andre Anderson. His performance was exceptional, and as Season 2 entered development, it was clear that he was on the precipice of becoming one of the defining faces of his generation. Tragedy struck in March 2024, when Perdomo was involved in a fatal solo motorcycle accident while traveling to begin filming for the next season of Gen V. He was only 27 years old. The news left his cast, his peers, and his global audience in a state of genuine devastation. Perdomo was an actor who had been building towards something truly extraordinary, a talent who had only just begun to show the world the scope of his potential. His passing remains a painful reminder of how fragile a bright future can be. Chance Perdomo left behind a body of work that will ensure his name is remembered. But the industry is left to wonder what heights he would have scaled had he been given more time. He was quite simply an irreplaceable talent who ran out of road far too soon. Japhet Kotto die age 81 inch 2021. Japhet Kotto was a cinematic titan who redefined the boundaries of what a character actor could achieve. Born in Harlem in 1939 to a father of Cameroonian royal descent, Kato carried an innate sense of authority and complexity that made him impossible to ignore. Standing over 6 feet tall, with a voice that resonated with deep, unforced power, he didn't just take roles, he elevated them. Kato famously turned down the role of Darth Vader, noting that he had no interest in hiding behind a mask, a decision that encapsulates his career-long insistence on bringing his own human magnitude to every project. His breakthrough in the 1960s was followed by a series of roles that introduced him to the global stage. He became the first black antagonist in the James Bond franchise as Dr. Kananga, Mr. Filed, Big in Live and Let Die, Etusine, Onihundra, Otreo Helfjets. Rather than falling into the traps of caricature, Kato played the villain with an icy intelligence that made the film feel significantly more grounded. This ability to inject human reality into high-concept genres became his hallmark. Perhaps his most iconic work was as Dennis Parker, the chief engineer in Ridley Scott's 1979 masterpiece Alien. In a film defined by cosmic horror and technological terror, Kato's performance served as the human anchor, providing a weary, relatable grit that made the alien threat feel all the more devastating. In the 1990s, he found one of his most sustained and beloved roles as Lieutenant Al Giardello in Homicide: Life on the Street. For 6 seasons, he brought a steady, commanding presence to the screen, mentoring a new generation of actors and proving that television could house performances as layered as any big-budget feature. After a long and decorated career, Kato eventually retired to the Philippines, where he lived quietly with his wife. When he passed away on the 15th of March 2021, at the age of 81, he left behind a filmography that remains a masterclass in screen presence. Kato was a man of immense magnitude, who never let the industry shrink his talent. He refused to be a footnote, and today his work continues to stand as a towering monument to the craft of acting. Roger E. Mosley died, age 83 inches, 2022. For 8 legendary seasons, Roger E. Mosley inhabited the role of Theodore T.C. Calvin in the hit series Magnum P.I. with such effortless cool that it was easy to forget it was an act at all. Born in 1,938 inches, the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles, Mosley grew up in a community that was as culturally vibrant as it was economically neglected. This duality, a mix of toughness, humor, and sharp intelligence, became the bedrock of his screen identity. After serving in the U.S. Army, he spent the 1960s and 70s building a resume that proved he could anchor scenes in both high-stakes drama and broad comedy, eventually landing the role that would make him a television icon. As T.C., the Vietnam veteran and helicopter pilot Mosley brought a grounded warmth to the show. The chemistry he shared with Tom Selleck was the series' heartbeat, a friendship that felt genuinely authentic to millions of viewers. Mosley made the life of an island-based adventurer look not just aspirational, but deeply human. His performance was characterized by a wit and a sense of reliability that made T.C. one of the most beloved recurring characters of the 1980s. Yet, his career was never limited to the confines of a pilot's cockpit. Years earlier, his portrayal of boxing legend Sonny Liston in the 1977 film The Greatest had demonstrated that Mosley was capable of deep psychological intensity, proving he could mirror the physical authority and vulnerability of a deafened sports icon. Mosley worked steadily in film and television for over 3 decades after Magnum P.I. ended, never losing his connection to the craft. He was a professional who thrived on the rhythm of production and the challenge of storytelling. On the 7th of August 2022, his final flight ended, following injuries sustained in a car accident in Los Angeles. He was 83 years old. The outpouring of grief from his former cast members and fans was a testament to the warmth he radiated both on and off camera. Roger E. Mosley was an actor who made greatness look like an everyday occurrence. He didn't just play a character, He invited the audience into his world, and for 8 years they were more than happy to come along for the ride. John Witherspoon. Die, age 77 inches, 2019. John Witherspoon was a comedic institution, a performer whose very presence could elevate a scene from standard entertainment to legendary status. Born in Detroit in 1942, he emerged from the brutal high-stakes comedy club circuits of the 1960s and 70s, a training ground that polished his timing into a weapon. By the time he walked onto the porch in Friday to play Willie Pops, Jones Witherspoon had already been crafting his comedic voice for 30 years. He brought a sense of seasoned, domestic exhaustion to the role that turned Pops into the franchise's moral and comedic bedrock. His ability to turn the mundane frustrations of fatherhood into high-octane hilarity was a feat that only a performer of his sheer magnetism could achieve. What made Witherspoon unique was his commitment to the profane wisdom of his characters. He didn't just deliver lines. He improvised with a rhythm that felt like jazz. His exasperated delivery and elastic facial expressions became his signature, turning even his smallest appearances on shows like The Wayans Brothers into scene-stealing events. He understood that the secret to great comedy was honesty, the willingness to be the person who is just tired of everyone else's nonsense. This authenticity translated across generations. While Friday made him a cultural icon, he found a second wave of devotion as the voice of Granddad in the animated series The Boondocks, proving his ability to evolve and remain relevant for nearly half a century. On the 29th of October 2019, John Witherspoon passed away suddenly in his home. He was 77 years old. The loss sent a shockwave through the comedy world as peers and fans alike mourned the end of an era. Ice Cube, his on-screen son, hailed him as a comedy legend, a sentiment shared by everyone who had ever watched him command a room. Witherspoon's life was a masterclass in the grit required to sustain a career in entertainment. He never looked for the easy path, and he never apologized for his style. He left the stage having made the whole world laugh, providing a blueprint for how to remain undeniably yourself in an industry that constantly tries to change you. He was a master of timing, a voice of reason in a chaotic world, and a man whose absence is still felt. Every time we hear the punchline, he would have delivered perfectly. Clarence Gilliard Jr., die age 66, pouce 2022. Clarence Gilliard Jr. was a professional in the truest sense, the kind of actor who could anchor any project, from high-octane action to gentle television drama, with a calm, unwavering authority. Born in 1955, he was the son of a military family, an upbringing that taught him the adaptability and observational precision that would eventually become his professional signature. After studying theater in college, Gilliard began a career that would place him in the center of some of the most influential pop culture moments of the late 20th century. His early success was defined by his role as the computer hacker Theo in the 1988 classic Die Hard. With minimal screen time, Gilliard turned a supporting villain into one of the most watchable characters in the film. He possessed a specialized cool, a sense of competence that suggested he was always the smartest person in the room. He followed this with a nearly decade-long run on Matlock, appearing alongside Andy Griffith in millions of American living rooms every week. This consistency made him a familiar, trusted presence, and he seamlessly transitioned from that role into Walker, Texas Ranger, where he played James Trevette for 8 seasons. As Chuck Norris's loyal partner and the show's moral compass, Gilliard became a fixture of the 1990s television landscape. Beyond his acting credits, Gilliard was deeply committed to the academic side of his craft. He spent his later years as a professor of theater arts at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he mentored hundreds of students. He viewed teaching as an extension of his life's work, a way to pass on the physical precision and dedication he had learned throughout his decades in the industry. When he passed away on the 28th of November, 2022, at the age of 66, the news was a quiet, profound loss for the academic and entertainment communities alike. He had kept his illness private, maintaining the same quiet dignity he had brought to every role. Clarence Gilliard Jr. remains the gold standard of a working actor, a man who never sought the spotlight for himself, but who made everything around him better. He left behind a body of work that spans thousands of hours, proving that longevity in Hollywood isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, but the most reliable one. Meshach Taylor, die Age, 67, Zoll, 2014. Meshach Taylor was the heartbeat of any project he stepped into, a performer whose warmth and wit could turn a simple supporting role into an unforgettable cultural landmark. Born in 1947 and raised in New Orleans, Taylor absorbed the city's rich musical and theatrical traditions, channeling that vibrancy into his work on screen. He was a product of regional theater, where he honed the physical expressiveness that would later define his most famous roles. He didn't just speak, he performed with his entire body, making every character he played feel lived in and deeply human. He first broke through to mainstream success with the 1987 hit Mannequin, playing the outrageous scene-stealing department store employee Hollywood Montrose. It would have been easy for such a character to fade into a one-note caricature. But Taylor brought a specific, layered vulnerability to the role that made Hollywood Montrose feel essential to the film's success. He was so beloved that he returned for the sequel, proving that audiences were eager to see more of the energy he brought to the screen. However, his most defining chapter arrived with the sitcom Designing Women. As Anthony Bouvier, the delivery man who eventually became a full partner at the firm, Taylor became the anchor of a show known for its sharp dialogue and strong personalities. His chemistry with his co-stars was so natural that it felt less like a scripted comedy and more like a documentary of a real-life family. Taylor appeared in 159 episodes of Designing Women, becoming a household name in the process. Yet even after that massive success, he refused to slow down, continuing to work in film and television through the 1990s and 2000s. He was a man who genuinely loved the process of acting, and his consistency made him a staple of the industry. When he passed away on the 28th of June, 2014, at the age of 67, after a battle with colorectal cancer, the tributes were universal. His former castmates mourned not just a talented actor, but a man who had brought out the best in everyone he encountered. Meshach Taylor was a master of his craft, a man who taught us that the most memorable characters aren't always the ones leading the charge, but the ones who make us feel like we're part of something larger. He remains a beloved figure, an actor whose work still brings warmth and laughter to new generations of fans. The devastating history behind these legends leaves us grappling with a deeply uncomfortable question about the industry we worship. From comedy titans like John Witherspoon and A.J. Johnson receiving crumbs of their franchise's massive success to the tragic losses of stars like Chadwick Boseman and Erica Ashe, who fought their private battles in silence, it is clear the machine thrives while the architects of our culture suffer. This forces us to confront a volatile reality. Does the Hollywood system intentionally exploit black talent, knowing their cultural impact will outlive the financial abuse they endure? Or are we as fans complicit for idolizing the art while ignoring the human wreckage left behind? I want your completely unfiltered thoughts. Drop your fiercest opinions in the comments below to ignite the debate. Hit subscribe and keep it locked to Black Hollywood Uncut for more explosive truths.